Get ready for another compilation of true Reddit stories. A collection of ordinary people sharing extraordinary events that defies logic. If you have any glitches, let us know in the comments or email me. The address is storyscary152@gmail.com. Hi, I'm Try Again 123, this is my glitch, about the girl who wasn't. When I was 16 I took an SAT prep class to improve my score, and get into a good college. The class was pretty boring, but I met the most interesting girl in the class. She was thin, fairly short, with light brown hair and green eyes. She always wore a green headband which I thought was cute. Her name was Connie. We hit it off immediately and spent most of the class whispering to each other, side by side at our desks. I spent about 3 weeks sitting next to her talking during the class. When the class was over, we exchanged IM handles so we could keep in touch. This was in the early 2000s. About a year passed, and we continued talking online. We got to know each other pretty well, but we lived on completely different sides of the city and it was quite a drive to visit each other, so being the young teens we never actually got together. Eventually, I worked up the courage to ask her out for dinner. I set our date at a restaurant located between the both of us so we wouldn't have to drive too far. The time for our date rolled around and I headed to the restaurant to meet her. I walked in and saw her sitting in a booth with 2 older individuals at the far side of the establishment. She looked exactly like she did in the class, thin, light brown hair, green eyes, and she was wearing her signature green headband. I approached her and said hello. I gave her a hug and sat down next to her in the booth. I assumed these 2 older individuals across from us were her parents. Odd, I thought, but maybe they were there to chaperone. I could tell immediately something was wrong. The 2 older individuals looked very confused, surprised, almost bewildered. The look on Connie's face was also one of perplexity. Eventually she said, "Who are you?" I was shocked. I said, I'm Jason, remember we set up a date for tonight? I assume these are your parents, it is very nice to meet you." And I reached out my hand to shake her parents' hands. They didn't return my handshake. Instead they simply looked at their daughter and said, "Oh, did you forget to tell us this, Sarah?" "Sarah?" I said. "You told me your name was Connie." She looked absolutely puzzled and said, "Sorry, you must have me confused with someone else." "Oh, my mistake," I replied. Then scratched my head and headed out of the restaurant to my car. I was embarrassed. Maybe she just didn't want to go out with me, I thought. She could have at least just said no instead of leading me on this charade. Defeated and humiliated, I decided to just head home. When I opened the door to my car I heard a voice behind me say, "Hey Jason." I turned around. It was a tall, light blonde-haired woman with a large round face and blue eyes. Do I know you?" I said. "It's me, Connie, we had a date planned, remember?" "Where are you going?" she said. We went inside and had dinner. She was definitely Connie. She remembered all our previous conversations over the past year, but she looked nothing like the girl I met in class. When I asked her why she stopped wearing her green headband, she had no recollection of ever wearing or even owning this type of headband. I can't explain it. Hi, I'm Stina84 on Reddit, and this is my story. It could be a glitch or coincidence or fate. My husband and I have been together a long time. Since we were 11, 38 years old now. I decided when we were 11 he was the boy I was going to marry. I just knew it in my bones I was meant to be with him. In our grade 5 romance, he gave me a tiny silver frame as a gift. It seemed antique and unique. I kept it. I didn't have a picture for it, but I kept it all these years. Cut to many years later, we had a child. Strangely enough, our child was born on our anniversary, unplanned. Anyway, I finally put the frame to use with a picture of our son. It sits on my desk at work. I started noticing something really strange. Occasionally when my desk gets bogged up with paperwork, or I am shuffling things around, I sometimes accidentally knock the frame over. On those days when the frame gets knocked over, my son gets hurt, so far not badly hurt, but something happens to him. The first few times I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but it's happened at least 5 or 6 times now over the last few years. Just happened again today, which prompted me to write this. I knocked it over and I immediately picked up the phone to call my husband to check on them. Sure enough, my son was playing with one of those plasma electricity balls and ended up breaking the glass in his hands just minutes after I dropped the frame. Do I have a magical frame? Should I put a picture of Justin Trudeau in there and throw it off of a building? Jokes aside, just thought this was an interesting twist of fate and something this subreddit might enjoy. Hi, I go by the name of MCMRGN on Reddit and this is my glitch, about a yellow car. So today I think I confirmed a glitch in the Matrix. I follow the same route to work every day and usually go in the mornings around the same time. And every day I see the same yellow car. It's always at the same intersection, in the same turning lane. At first I just noticed it and assumed they must go this way to work, no big deal. But no matter what time I go to work it's always there in the turning lane. The last couple of months I've been leaving a little later in the mornings. I was usually leaving around 8 a.m. but was starting to leave around 8:10 to 15 a.m. Still, the car would always be in the same place on the road. Even on days that I'm running a little late, it's there. Today I had a different shift so I was supposed to be at work at 10. So this is 2 hours later than usual, and the car is still there. I kind of want to test it tomorrow. I work my normal hours so we'll see if it's back. I also want to add, the car is an early 2000s Ford Thunderbird. Honestly, it's pretty ugly and I think that's what caught my attention the first time I saw it, that and it's bright yellow. There are plenty of yellow VW Beetles around town, but this is the only one like this that I've seen. Hi, I'm throwaway for awkward stuff on Reddit, and this is my glitch, but how to interpret this, is the question. First night in my late grandpa's newly renovated house, pregnant and alone, and wonder if this is a glitch. So I'm early 30s, pregnant, and broke up with my ex-fiancé early on in the pregnancy, mama's boy who went from ecstatic and wanting to rush the wedding to no contact after persuasion by his mom that marrying me would be awful, and he needs to confirm the baby is his before doing so. Despite him having a more promiscuous history than me, there's no reason to think I was with anyone else, and this unhinged lady only having met me once, anyway. So, I had to move back to my home state for help and decided to renovate my grandpa's old house that previous renters had basically ruined and my parents lazily left. Well, enough backstory. I hope that I'm in my 3rd trimester and luckily have not had any swelling, specifically relevant detail for this story. I also still managed to sleep pretty decently, but I was worried about my first night here given my sensitivity to all the new construction smells while pregnant, on top of the somewhat oddness of being back at my grandpa's in his bedroom as an adult, and didn't sleep well. Okay, so here's the potential glitch. I have 2 rings I've worn for years, every day. I don't take them off. I was having a hard time staying asleep last night and at some point adjusted the comforter and heard a thump. I realized it was one of my rings after trying to determine what it could be and feeling around. I for sure didn't take it off in bed. I have no recollection of messing with it. I don't use lotions or oils or anything to make my fingers slick, and it's never ever come off in the years I've worn it. When I found it later in the morning, I went to put it back on, and it wouldn't fit anymore. My fingers don't look swollen to me, and even some minor swelling from maybe the general effect of a new environment in the summer heat shouldn't make this ring not fit anymore. It wasn't ever tight. I can't tell if this feels like a sign, and if so, is it good or bad? Bad could be being messed with and having a physical reaction to the house. Good could be that my finger was going to be too swollen for the ring for the first time ever and it just so happened to come off somehow in my sleep. So it would then be protective. I also heard it roll to one side of the room and found it in another. Hours later, my fingers is normal, the ring still doesn't fit. The ring that's still on feels completely normal too, while this one won't budge past the middle joint anymore. Even if you could just say it's coincidental swelling, why only one finger, and why did my ring come off on its own? Or me somehow get compelled to remove it during sleep with no recollection of it? The ring has no special meaning to me. The people who have lived here since my grandpa were awful. One of them swore they saw an old man in the hallway at night dressed like Grandpa dressed. My grandpa was my favorite person in the whole world, and if all goes well my baby will have his name as a middle. Please let me know what you think. Hi, I'm Vagabond_ on Reddit and my glitch is about strange things happening. I've been living in the same house for 10 years and over that span of time occasionally weird things happen. However, recently things have gotten very strange. My first weird encounter in the house was when I was about 12. I had been a very shy, quirky kid who liked to be left alone, so I spent most of my time sleeping and listening to music in my room. This particular day my nap stretched on too long and I slept through dinner. But because it was a nap I woke up around 4 a.m. I woke up with a weird feeling, like a prickly, uncomfortable feeling. It's hard to explain. I sat up in bed and started to look around. But all of a sudden, I got shoved over and felt like I was being held down and I couldn't move my arms. I felt something go between my legs and when I cried out for it to stop it went away. Nothing happened again for another year or so. When I was 13, I was home alone and the lights went out. I've always been the fearless type, so I got up and headed straight for the power box. The power box is located directly in front of my walk-in closet connected to my hallway. As I went to flip some switches, I stopped before I reached the box and looked into my closet. Have you ever looked into a dark area and seen like something move through it? Like something blacker than all the darkness stands out and you can just feel it? That's exactly how I felt. I don't easily get scared, but for some reason all my instincts told me to get out. So, I told my mom I was sleeping over at a friend, locked up the house and walked over to my friend's house and stayed the night with her. I'm 15 now, and some really strange things have started happening. I'll go to turn on a certain light in the house and it won't turn on, or if it does turn on it flickers. However, my mom could turn on the same light and it would be completely normal. On top of that, my animals have been acting strangely around me. My dog has always hated me, biting at me, not listening to what I ask. But recently, she's been submissive around me and not like she's finally wanting to open up to me, it's more like she's afraid of what I might do to her. I have never abused her or hit her in her life, so there's not a single reason for her to act like this. Mind you, she's a big dog, 75 pounds, and if she was standing on her back paws she would be about 4 feet 5 inches. My cat on the other hand has started watching me from certain parts of the house. Just today she went under my bed and 5 minutes later she flew out from under my bed, digging her claws in my arm, desperately trying to get out from under my bed. When I finally scooped her up and was holding her, I noticed her fur was sticking up in all directions and that she was shaking. I held her and asked her what the hell happened, and she made eye contact with me. As soon as she made eye contact with me, however, she violently jumped out of my arms and ran out of my room. I was sitting there so confused. I have also been getting pains in my lower back and hip area, and I stopped growing since middle school, seeing as I'm a girl and I started my growth spurt earlier. The reason I'm writing this is that I have no idea what's going on. This just happened today and has been occurring for the past month, so any comments or suggestions to help me feel less crazy will help. Hi, I'm Danny on Reddit, and this is my glitch about random bikers. My husband and I were sitting out on our front porch a few days ago, letting our dogs run around. We live on a hill with a bit of a straightaway in both directions. We're both scrolling on our phones when suddenly a bike came whizzing past the house, closely followed by another bike with what looked like the same man on it. As they passed our house, they both suddenly sang out, in perfect unison, "Whoa." They rode a few more feet and twice more sang out, "Whoa," again in perfect unison, and then they were gone. My husband and I turned to look at each other to be sure the other saw it. We jumped up to look, but they were nowhere in sight down the road. I said, "Did you also feel like they materialized in front of our house?" And we contemplated for a second on the fact that, despite both straight away, we did not hear them singing at all coming down the hill. Nor did the bike's whizzing sounds gradually increase. The dogs didn't even hear them, it was like they just suddenly appeared there, sang out the word "whoa" in perfect unison 3 times, and disappeared. And despite the fact that they were screamed singing, we didn't hear them before or after they passed our house. It was like they glitched into our timeline, and then back into their own. Hi, I'm Xaf0520 and my glitch is about fake memories, object displacement, and parenting other adults. Man, I haven't been on Reddit in 6+ months, but I have been wanting to share this story and get others' opinions. There's always skeptics or maybe an explanation someone else can find that I can't think of. Obligatory TLDR at bottom. Sorry for the length. I suck at storytelling, it's 2 a.m., and I just generally suck. Sorry. Other people in the story. Lance, my kid's father. We have been separated for 6 years and our daughter is 7. Non-biological children we share are still our kids. Great co-parenting friendship. Really one of my best friends, but absolute worst exes. No possibility of rekindling the past. He works out of town 90% of the year, so he is rarely home. Carrie, fantastic friend of Lance's. Carrie and her so really helped Lance with his kids and keeping him together after our breakup. I've met her a few times over the years but never really got to know her until I moved in with Lance at the end of January 2022. She lives in a different state but visits occasionally. Long setup story made short, I needed some major help in January, so Lance offered for my kids and I to live in his house until I could get my stuff together. By March, I was good, but the housing market hasn't been. Never know how to begin, so I'll just dive on in. For a couple of weeks the stars aligned and both Carrie and Lance were in town. One night Lance went to drink and play pool and I was cleaning and organizing the kitchen, when Carrie came to hang out for a bit. All I had was water to drink and no drugs in me. Earlier that day I had been given a grinder from another friend, but since I don't partake anymore, I asked Carrie if she wanted it. Important note, it was over Messenger, so no vocal conversation had happened about the grinder yet. She said yes and said, "It's so pretty, so I sat it on the corner of my desk in my room where I could see it from the kitchen. I'm pretty forgetful, so I wanted to make sure she got it since she was leaving in a couple of days and I wouldn't see her. Carrie showed up around 1 a.m. When she texted that she was on her way, I grabbed the grinder and put it on the kitchen counter. She sat down at the bar counter opposite of the main kitchen area I was working in so we could talk while I did my thing. Within 5 minutes I grabbed it and handed it to her, mentioning how I didn't want to forget later on. She took it, opened it up and said, "It's so pretty," before placing it into her little backpack. Fast forward 3 hours. It's 4 a.m. Carrie is high, Lance is home and super drunk, and I'm chasing them around the kitchen trying to kick them out for reheating curry and leaving messes everywhere. Lance asks if I'd given her the grinder yet. Yes came from me, while not yet came from Carrie. I joked about how she's cut off because it was the first thing I did, and being completely sober, remembered every detail of how it went. Down to tone and pitch of her voice, where both of us were at, and what song Alexa was playing. I was so adamant I asked if I could check her bag, which is something I'd never do for fear of offending her. Yay, people pleasing. The grinder wasn't in her bag, or on the counter where I remembered placing it, or the desk corner. Knowing how I am, I went and checked the living room couches too. I searched for 20 minutes before walking into my room for the umpteenth time to look at my desk. I found it sitting 1.5 feet to the left, on the other side of a small 3-inch tall basket of pens I had sitting there. Other than overlooking it 5 to 9 times in a rush before seeing it, I can't think of why I had missed it before. Why was it in a spot I hadn't placed it, even in the fake memory? Lance had even looked in my room. It's also not normal at all for me to remember mundane events that actually happened, let alone a completely fabricated one. Another important note to add is that this was only the third time I'd spent more than 5 minutes around her. I hadn't known her well enough to be able to imagine her exact mannerisms and tone of voice into a detailed memory. Cherry on top. Lance has a camera in his kitchen that is set to auto-recording with motion sense after a certain time. In his inebriated state he didn't turn it off, but there's still no footage of that time or after. I don't remember if the memory was just full or if it stops recording after so long, but we can't look back to see what we were doing when I thought I had given it go-her. A text conversation between a friend and I became a very vivid memory, exact images, voices and all. Never happened, but an object was lost for a time and found after 20 minutes of searching. Placed in a fairly visible area. Hi, I'm the Fast and the Curious on Reddit, and this my glitch, about a disappearing dog. I'll keep it short. Me and some friends were on a walk and we hear a dog barking. We look up and it's stuck on this ledge thing. It's really high up and we have no idea how he got there. There's no way he could have gotten up there, and there's no way down. We walk over to see if we could help the dog in any way. He's barking like crazy and we all turn around and see that he's barking at a cat. We turn back to face the dog. And it's gone. We were all spooked because there's nowhere that dog could have gone, so we all joked about how it was a glitch in the Matrix. Hi, I'm careless_Duran_6087 on Reddit, and this is the glitch, about my teddy bear that became 2. 19 years ago I had to go in an ambulance with the paramedics, to the hospital. I got a teddy bear at the hospital, because when children are admitted they get a toy, and this is what I got. I remember this clear as a day because this teddy bear, one to the right, was my favorite one. I slept with it for many years after, and had it on my shelf even as a teenager. It was so heavily used that its nose broke off, so I fixed it with a button about 3 years ago. It has literally been with me forever. I've just moved apartments and got help from my parents, and on the sofa I see this teddy bear. Then I notice there is two, and I ask my parents, did you put it there, and also why are the two? I was so confused. They can clearly remember packing down one teddy bear because it was sitting on a shelf on the wall, but not two. My mom can't even remember I ever had two, she only remembers this one teddy bear I got in the ambulance, and it was the only time I got one, and the reason she remembers it is because of how it has been with me forever. Looking at the left teddy, and it looks brand new. No signs of wear and tear, using it for over 19 years. It's exactly the same, but somehow not. It doesn't have the sticker on the butt, it has something different with it. But I can swear that I've never ever seen this teddy before, and it's honestly freaking me out because neither can my parents that helped me moved and have seen it in my old apartment and packed it down. Where the heck did this dude come from? Hi, I'm BlackOTCRYPTIC on Reddit, and my glitch is about a biker appeared in front of me while driving. This happened yesterday. I was driving home from work, everything was normal. I was about 5 minutes from my house when I looked to the opposite side of the road. I was looking for about 3 to 4 seconds when all of a sudden a man on a bike just appeared in motion going the opposite direction. Like, he popped right onto the road and was already in motion going the other way. There are no driveways or buildings near this, and there's a rail on the edge of the road, so there's no way he could have turned onto the road. Hi, I'm OGCeeg on Reddit. This is my glitch, when I walked by someone at work who was sitting in the room I had just left. This just happened 20 minutes ago, and I'm tripping out. I work at Amazon as a picker, however, I have tote running duties tonight, so I'm on the production floor the whole night. This is everyone in the building's last day of the week, so the floor I'm on is empty. I can say probably 30 people, when there's typically over 60. I go into a small remote break room where what we call amnesty is taking their break. I make eye contact with a black woman who has dreadlocks and a lazy eye. I've seen her a ton of times. We don't know each other by name, but by passing. I get my chips and drink, and she's talking to the new amnesty trainees the whole time about their job. I walk out of the door and can still hear her behind me. I make a left, and she turns around from a corner and walks right past me. I stopped and my mind exploded. I knew what happened, but it shocked me cause I literally saw her 10 seconds before I saw her walk towards me in the production area. She could have a twin or sister, but I never saw them both together at the same time in the 10 months I've worked here. Hi, I'm ammabermad on Reddit, and this is my glitch that I sometimes repeat a day. Just found out about this Reddit and wanted to share my story. I always tell myself it was just a dream, or a deja vu. I first experienced it when I was 18. It was 2016 in college. I woke up expecting that day to be Wednesday, and I went to my small pantry to look for breakfast, and saw the cup noodles I ate the day before, and thought that I just forgot for buying another cup noodles. I just drank coffee, saw my wallet and thought I had extra cash, bought a muffin at the bakery, then I went and rode a bus. And weirdly it was the same bus I rode yesterday, since I knew the driver and he always greets me. I nodded at him and said good morning. That was the time it felt weird. Opened my phone to check on my girlfriend and saw a message that we will be vacant for the second subject. I entered our classroom, and got confused when our professor on modern physics was sitting on the front, waiting for us. It was 5 or 10 minutes before her class, and she's always early. She was my favorite. Professor. I asked my classmate, what's Mrs. M doing here? Shouldn't Mr. T be our first period? Then my classmate told me that Mr. T's period is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it was Tuesday today. Chills run through my spine, but I laughed and told him to stop kidding around. Then he showed me his phone and the date was the date yesterday. I went speechless as he laughed at me. Then I told myself this day is a déjà vu. I went on my day, saw the people I saw yesterday, talked to the same people, did the activities we did, and I got higher scores since I knew most of the answers. I went to my girlfriend's school, we went and ate dinner together, I walked her home, kissed her goodbye and went back to my boarding house. All the things I did yesterday. I even looked at my study table to look for my notes in calculus that I wrote after I went home, but it was not there. It happened to me 3 or 4 times now. And I'm a physics major grad. I am reading a lot about altering time and space pattern. But the nearest thing I can conclude is it was just a dream that I happened to live again in real life. Hi, I'm Snowflake on Reddit and my glitch is the small nut-like end of my hose sprayer glitched out, then back into existence. Just as my title says. Not too exciting, I know, but when it happened I knew 100% it was a glitch, or that thing that its name escapes me, where things like disappear and reappear with no explanation. So this morning I was cleaning the pool filter. I decided that I should change the end of the sprayer, and unscrewed it. I tried to get the end I wanted to use unscrewed, similar to this, but the nut-like head is stored where the nut securing the handle is, but it wouldn't budge, when my phone rang from my pocket. Hands being full and now wet from removing the end piece, I set the sprayer down, set the end piece next to it, wiped my hands and answered the call that I knew it was my husband. I proceeded to tell him how I couldn't get the end piece off the handle as I reached down to pick up the other end piece, which was no longer there. I cursed the Matrix for messing with me while he told me to check my pockets and bra, because I will sometimes put a small piece of hardware in there for safekeeping when I don't have pockets and am working on a project. No luck. So I hung up with him to focus on finding it. And as I was standing in one small area with the garden hose encircling me, I started on one side and stepped every inch of the area. Didn't feel it underfoot, so I got on the ground and crawled around, feeling every inch and carefully moving the hose as I went in case it was laying next to it. Nope. I admitted defeat and got my 13 years old, as she can find any missing thing in a matter of minutes. Brought her outside explaining what she was looking for, but when we walked up to the area I pointed and said, and I lost it right there, my gaze following my finger to the damn end piece. In the exact spot I said it, the exact spot I went over several times. There was no grass obscuring it, we saw it plain as day from a few feet away after I'd been within inches of the ground looking, feeling for it. This shit happens far too often for me. I just wish my second truck key would freaking reappear. It's been like 18 months since that vanished. Hi, I'm OutLawJesse on Reddit. My glitch is that there was a fire and no fire. Am I confusing you? To give some background, it's been very, very hot here, extreme heat warnings every day for a week. We have an arsonist, young people probably, and they have been spotted twice at fires, but there have been 51 deliberate fires in our area in the last week. In my town we've seen about 10 of them. Plus, on Thursday one of the flats behind us burned out in an accidental fire, but there were fire engines here all night, and police everywhere, where the street was cordoned off. It was a big deal. My husband needed a new batteries for his guitar pedal. I ordered a pack of 5 from Amazon, they arrived Thursday morning. Thursday evening after work and before the flat fire, I gave him the batteries, but I also took half the pack and changed all the batteries in our smoke detectors, just to make sure we were protected. So I have been creeped out by the prospect of fires for a few days. Now the incident. We were sitting here watching telly last night, it was quite late, and I was nodding off a bit. But I was woken by the smell of smoke from somewhere. I checked the house, all quiet. I opened the front door and there was a pall of smoke hanging in the air like fog. I walked along the road both ways a bit to look but couldn't see anything. I went out the back to look out the back bedroom window, nothing. I met my husband in the hallway also looking, and he said he couldn't smell anything. I said to come out the front, it was everywhere. When I opened the front door, there was nothing at all, no smoke, no smell, nothing. What happened? Where did it go? I wasn't asleep enough to have imagined a street full of smoke. I'm really weirded out by it all. Hi, I'm TheShadeOne on Reddit, and my glitch is about a guy that dive in the pool and instantly respawned by the diving board. So I was at my pool club yesterday, and I was in the water with my friends. I happened to look towards the deep end where the diving boards are. I notice a very athletic-looking man getting ready to jump off the diving board. So I watched thinking, this should be good, and hoping to see a flip or an Olympic-level dive. Anyway, he jumps off and does a perfect dive. As soon as he fully enters the water, I see him standing by the ladder about to get back on the board. Mind you, I did not take my eyes off that section for a second. He just respawned at the diving board as soon as he fully entered the water. We've come to the end of this compilation. Mention your glitches in the comments, and like and subscribe for more stories.